Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald Times, columnist Jeremy Price, back at Assembly Hall, second time this week. The end of a stretch of four out of 5 games here at Assembly Hall for Indiana, back on the road, Tuesday at Wisconsin, but first, one more big win at home.
Blowout win at home.
Another one of those. What is the, once again, didn't bring the paper with all these little interesting notes, but this is...
Three straight Big Ten home wins by 25 points or more for the first time since 1987-88.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
And I think it was back to... anyway, it's been a while since Indiana's had this kind of blow-by stretch of victories that they've produced both today, Tuesday against Illinois, and going back even before then against Ohio State last, or 2 weekends ago, I guess it was.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
So, and hey, this is with it all, they've kind of entered a bit of rarefied air here. The first time Indiana started conference play 7-0 in 23 years. That was the 1992-93 team. Not to compare either team, but this is a very notable opening stretch to Big Ten. Now, you can say what you will about the conference, and frankly, I will agree to a point, but this is clearly a team that's playing much better basketball on both ends, and it sure makes the second half of the Big Ten season a whole heck of a lot more intriguing.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And like you said, I mean, kind of be careful there with the comparisons when you start going back to the 92-93 team. I don't think anybody feels like this team quite compares to that collection of talent. And I'm not sure anybody expects a Final Four run or a one-loss Big Ten campaign from this team like that team had.
Yeah.
But that being said, I guess, you know, what I said in my column was, in some ways, maybe it's fitting that this is the first team since then to start 7-0, just for what this team has to offer in terms of its confidence, in terms of its balance, and just sort of its depth, really, at this point. Because you go back to those were the kind of teams that were, you know, your more typical Indiana teams more often than not at that time, and this team maybe more resembles that than recent teams have. Even with the success of the 2012-13 team, I don't think that team had the balance or the depth that this team has, really. I mean, that team was really good, like 1 through 6, maybe 7, and that was about it. Mm-hmm. You know, it never... We thought that team was going to have depth, and it didn't turn out to be that way for a lot of different reasons. Mm-hmm. But this team seems to have sort of all the tangible and intangible things going right now. Whether they can sustain those or not, we'll see. But I feel like I keep saying, well, this game's going to be a test, and this game's going to be a test, and it's blowout after blowout after blowout. And, I mean, if this was Michigan State doing this to people, people would be like, oh, this is, you know, how awesome is Michigan State, and Final Four favorite, and top 2-3 team in the country. And so I think we've kind of reached the point where you got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it from this way, too. I mean, you go back to Maui, and you see those games against Wake Forest, you see the game they played against UNLV. I mean, those weren't great teams either, and yet they were still having a whole lot of success, kind of exploiting some of those holes, taking advantage of a young Thomas Bryant up on those ball screens, really just finding even the slightest holes they could kind of wiggle themselves in and get points and kind of throw IU to the side. Those teams did that, and these teams are not. Granted, I think I agree with you. This Northwestern team, I really honestly thought this was going to be a game to circle back when we started Big Ten play for a variety of reasons. They had Alex Ola back, came off the bench, and I think he led them with 19 points. He certainly got the better of that matchup with Bryant, and I think IU did try some other things. They put in Juwan Morgan at times to try to check him out a little bit. And then Trey Demps versus vintage Trey Demps versus IU. Yes. 14 of his 17 points came in the first half. They did I think he actually was hurt, yes, honestly, on that last play of the first half. I think he had ice on his shoulder.
Yeah, he had ice on his shoulder in the post-game interview, and he was really working it out at halftime. He didn't even shoot after when they came out of the locker room at halftime. He was just doing dribbling drills and kind of looked like he was trying to stretch that shoulder out. And so credit Robert Johnson with doing a good job and Yogi Ferrell, kind of those two were guarding Demps and McIntosh throughout the day, so credit those guys for the job they did to some degree. But I think the second half, at least, Demps was definitely hurting, I think, and that certainly helped IU. But I mean, IU already had a 17-point lead at halftime, even when Demps was going crazy. So,
what else were we going to mention here, Jeremy? I just had something and I lost my train of thought.
Well, I think looking at this, Indiana only hit 13 three-pointers today.
The
so
threes. They
You
were
know.
on pace for like 21 through that first media timeout.
Yeah.
They had, I think, they started 4 or 5 for the day. Another hot shooting day. Got guys open. Oh, and here's the other thing. The turnovers were a thing for a little bit here today. I think 7 turnovers in the first 11 minutes of regulation. Really about midway through that first half is when it all kind of came together for Indiana for a variety of reasons, I suppose. But only 3 the rest of the way over the final 19 minutes. Cleaned themselves up. Turnovers obviously have been an issue for this team all season long. I think that's been no secret. And I think when you look at some of the statistical metrics, I think their turnover percentage is about 21%, 22% right now, which is god awful. Worse than the Big Ten. And it is, to some degree, still a little bit puzzling why a team like this has trouble at times. Other times when you see him making those jump passes and just kind of getting a little sloppy, it's not too hard to understand where it's coming from. But today, turnovers were a bit of an issue. But I think, to IU's credit, this was an area that they addressed within the game. And I think that is a sign of a team that can do things. It's a sign of a talented, smart, veteran team that can fix itself within the confines of one specific game, within a half, and make those adjustments on the fly.
And once they made those adjustments, that's when this went from being an 8 or 10 point game to being a 15, 20 point game,
Right.
and just kept stretching it out from there. So, I mean, those turnovers were really the only thing keeping Northwestern in the game for most of the first half, truth be told. But, yeah, I mean, IU winds up with a 17-point halftime lead after committing those turnovers and really getting very little out of Yogi Ferrell and Troy Williams in that first half. They had a combined 6 points in the first half. I think Yogi only had 1 assist in the first half. Just really quiet, and they still had success, which is sort of the big thing that you look at with this is they're doing a lot of different things, getting things from a lot of different people to have success. And so they're not just winning one way. It's not just the three-pointers, although they're certainly shooting the ball very, very well right now. But they're getting them from different places. They're doing things defensively. They're doing things rebounding-wise. They won the rebounding battle 40-23 today. So just a lot of things going Indiana's way right now.
A whole lot. We'll see how that kind of carries over. We've talked about being able to sustain this recent play. It's going to get, I mean, I thought this was going to be the game where it starts to get hard for Indiana. Obviously, you have this one, then you go on the road to Madison on Tuesday, and then you're back here for get a little bit of a breather against Minnesota, and then it gets super hard. I think as you get into as you wade into February, obviously right now you're looking at those back-to-backs. The Iowa-Michigan State back-to-back there in about the middle of February is maybe the real true test of when we really maybe see what this team's made out of. But the Wisconsin game on Tuesday will be interesting. I'm interested to see how they do carry this on the road. Does the defense show up in a traditionally difficult environment like the Kohl Center? And the thing too, I mean, when you see some of these recent wins, you've talked about it, it's just the variety of contributions from a number of different players. Does that carry on? Does that carry over to the road too?
Right, and Wisconsin is playing much better now than they were playing a couple weeks ago when they visited Bloomington. And particularly of note, I think, is Happ for Wisconsin, the freshman, was really sort of kind of had the deer in the headlights look a little bit when he was here in Bloomington a little bit, has been much more aggressive here lately, and certainly looks much more confident when he's playing at home. And this Wisconsin team's doing a lot better right now. That said, this is still not a vintage Wisconsin team. This is a team that, if IU plays to its capabilities, I believe it's fully capable of going in there and winning. But it will be a good test because I don't know that anybody really circled the game at Madison as being a win on the Indiana schedule going into this year. And so maybe for the first time to this point in the Big Ten season, you actually feel like there's a true toss-up. But we keep saying that, and it hasn't happened yet, so maybe not.
What's the streak in Madison? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know.
12, 13, something like that?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I don't know. Just making this up right now. Let's get out of here. Anything else we didn't touch on? Blah, 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 box scores. Oh, here's something. Last time IU was 7-0 to start the Big Ten. The only players who were alive were Nick Seiseloft and Ryan Burton. So, a little bit of Hoosier trivia. Take that to the bar with you tonight.
Okay.
Or don't. Stay at
Good
home.
to know.
Yeah, whatever. I think we got it.
Yeah, we're good. 12-game win streak, 7-0 in the Big Ten.
This one kind of speaks for itself. Yeah, 89-57. Yeah, we'll check in about Monday.
Yeah,
I'll check in on you.
we'll
on Monday.
preview on Monday.
We'll preview. See you guys.